What we have said is that we will not open our doors until we feel that we can do so in a safe manner. Originally, we thought that might be January. We know now that is just not reasonable. We had hoped it would be March. We know now that is not reasonable either. We just sent a notice out recently saying that we were hoping that we would be able to open in the spring. You know, given the fact that since we did that, Dr. Fauci has actually begun to talk about when he thinks it's going to be safe to re-enter the public sphere. We are just putting all of our cards on the table by telling you we don't know exactly when we're going to be opening. You know, whether it's going to be spring, whether it's going to be June, whether it's going to be September. What I can tell you is that the determination that we'll make will be based in large part on whether there's acceptable therapeutics or whether there is a vaccine, and whether there will have been enough time between the approval of the vaccine and our opening for our audience to have been able to receive their vaccinations. Because we do not want to be a hotspot for COVID-19. We do not want to get you sick, and we want you to be able to feel that when you walk through our doors, you are not going to become sick. So this is a big issue for us. Any of you who have attended those very occasional performances at Berkeley Rep where the audience is small, where the house is not filled, you know that it can be very depressing to be in a house where there's only 25% of the house full. And so we know that it would take about a 25% capacity for us to be able to maintain social distancing. We just don't think that that's a valid and really acceptable way for us to program for you. And so for that reason, we are saying that we want there to be either a vaccine that's been distributed or a strong therapeutic. So I just want to give you that peace of mind. In addition to that, we will find out at that time whether masks are still important, whether additional temperature taking and anything else that important. That we know is a long time away. And so we're not going to make projections about what it's going to look like at that time. We want you to know that when you walk through our doors, you will be able to feel that you can leave there without having been contaminated. Simple as that. So we also are concerned about the safety of our staff, of our artists. So we care about you. We also care about them. And all of that becomes sort of a braking system for us on not moving too fast. A number of you have asked, if you subscribe now and we cancel performances, can you get a refund? If we cancel a performance, you can get a refund. But I will tell you, we are going to do everything in our power not to cancel performances. We want to be giving you 7 plays. This is our goal. This is our intention. Frankly, it's what many of us live for. So it is possible that the dates may change. It is possible that because of the dates changing, we may have to substitute one play for another. But our intention is to give you all 7 plays. And so bear that in mind. The other thing, though, that we've been very conscious of is that each of us is going to respond to the sense of safety and security and our emotion, our well-being in a personal way. And for that reason, we know that some of you may be slower to return to the theater than others. Some of you may be more cautious than others. And so we've been able to reach an agreement with our unions so that we can record and broadcast our shows. The broadcast will run for a limited period of time. They may be only 2 weeks, whatever. But what that means is that anyone who subscribes to the theater will have the right to be able to choose not to attend and instead to view a broadcast, a recording of the production. What I do want to say to you is that if you subscribe and you choose not to attend, we cannot give you a refund for that, because we are offering you the opportunity to see the show in its broadcast version. And so I want to be clear about that up front, because basically what we've done is in offering you a subscription with a very discounted price, what we're doing is we're saying we asked you to see all 7 plays of the season. And if you choose not to do that, then we would rather not be giving you that substantial discount. And so I think it's important for us to be clear with you up front about that.
I love going to live theater. I love going to live theater more than almost anything. And for me, like you, I think the experience of a computer or an iPad is not the same in any way. So all I can tell you is that we are preparing to be there live and in person with you as soon as we possibly can. But in the meantime, I actually feel really excited about some of the experiments that we're using this time to do. I think everybody in the theater industry is learning incredibly quickly about what the different capacities are for the ways in which we can tell stories in a more virtual way. Some of that is through video, some of it is through audio, some of it is through streamed performances, maybe of a solo performance in an empty theater. So all I can tell you is that the artistic team and I are working really hard to continue to do two things. One is to provide engaging entertainment for you that covers a really broad range of stories from a very broad range of storytellers. And the other is to continue to engage and therefore support our artistic community, because they need us to be there for them right now in a really profound way, and engaging them to generate this work and to participate in these kinds of experiments in entertainment form is one of the ways that we can ensure they can be there with us on the other side of this.
Because we've been loath to require a deadline, just because the world is changing so fast. People are, things are happening constantly, and we have been loath to do that. This is what I would say. You have until someone else gets your seats. Maybe that's the best way to answer the question. We will be seating people as orders come in, and at this point, we are not aggressively seeking new subscribers. We are still focusing our energies at this moment on renewing subscribers. So at some point, we will give you notice that we're going to be opening this up in a more aggressive way to new subscribers. Your seats until we find that we have to give them to someone else. So subscribe. So because we don't know exactly when we're going to be reopening, and because we know that we want to continue to be a cultural resource for you, we've put together this fall series of programs. Now, what I will also say is that if we find that we can't produce for many more months, we are going to continue to program for you virtually. And what we're looking at is a continuous combination of work that we originate, like The Waves, or like It Can't Happen Here, or like place settings, but it will also be an amalgamation of cherry picking from other colleagues who are doing work that we think would be of interest to you. So whether it's more of Emma Rice, whether it's more of Hershey Felder, whether it's something else, we think that we are in an interesting position to be able to curate a broad range of programming for you. The way we are thinking about this is that if you have been good enough to subscribe to us and to subscribe early, we feel that we want you to have access to all of our virtual programming at no additional cost, which means we, Berkeley Rep, are absorbing that cost. So that is structurally the way we're thinking about the virtual programming versus the live programming. So if you pay $250 for your subscription to see all 7 shows, $300, $700, whatever you've chosen to pay, you have access to all of our virtual programming from now until when we open. There will be occasional things that we take on that will not be included in that, and we will be really clear with you about that. But so in the case of Hershey Felder, it's going to cost $55 if you choose to buy it as a single ticket. But if you choose to subscribe, you will get that free. And so if if your subscription would have cost, as they say, $200, $400, $600, then the $55 you would be spending for Hershey simply becomes part of that subscription cost. And that's why we think that what we're doing is really offering you something that is of high value.
And it's our gift to you, and our hope that it will encourage you to take the leap and subscribe with us right now.
Yes, there's a lot of things you can do for us. And that takes us really into sort of the what have we been doing over the last 6 months? What are we going to be doing over the next 6 months? A lot of what we have been doing over the last 6 months is simply figuring out how are we going to be here at whatever time you want us to reopen. Up until this point, 60 to 70% of our income in any given year came from ticket sales. That has completely stopped as of March 16th. And so we have suddenly had to rethink our economic model, our operational model for at least an 18-month period is the way we're looking at it. And that has meant that we are pretty much totally dependent on contributions. Many people have come through and have been incredibly kind to us, incredibly generous. We know that we're going to need continuous generosity for now and for many months to come. Your subscriptions actually help us through this period of time. And it's one of the reasons the way we keep looking at this is that your willingness to subscribe is not only investment in your future, but it's also an investment in our future. But in the subscription offer that we've sent to you, there is of course also an opportunity for you to contribute. If you'd like to do so, I'm sure we can find. You want to tell us that you really want one of those Berkeley Rep mugs, or you really want one of those sweatshirts. It may be that we can figure out some way to work out a deal. The minute that we had to shut down, our school staff went into high gear to rethink how we could deliver a wide range of classes and a different range of classes for a really different kind of market, different audience than we'd had before. And so as a result of that, what we've ended up doing is creating some sort of master classes that we're calling Deep Dive, led by remarkable artists for people who have a level of sophistication that would make this the right program for them. But at the same time, we've also developed a whole range of classes that are for people who are taking their first acting class or their first writing class or directing class, improvisation class, whatever it is. People who are doing it for the first time, people who have a moderate level of experience. But the idea is that we've tried to create lots of entry points for people who simply want to experiment and expand their creative muscles. Some of the courses take 1 day, some of them take 5 weeks, some of them take longer. And if you want to go online, you can go to www.berkeleyrep.org. You can find our school programs. You can sign up for them easily. If you don't like the class offerings now, you can look again in a few weeks and there'll be a different set. You can also ask to be on our list so that you just see the classes whenever they turn up. If you call the box office, the subscription office, to ask to renew your seats, then they will have a record of your credit, and they will automatically credit that to the price of your subscription ticket, and you will reap the benefit of that. You will feel like you're getting such a bargain this year. You won't have had such a cheap subscription in years. Enjoy it.
Our staff has been amazing. You know, we have obviously, like many people, had to really shrink, and the staff who remains have been intrepid in imagining new ways of delivering stories, of working together. We are a much, much smaller organization right now than we were in March. And the reality is we'll probably continue to be a much smaller organization for quite some time until we can really rebuild. But, you know, for me, still being relatively new here, I continue to be so impressed and so moved by this group of people, by their commitment to nimbleness of thinking, to making sure that we are doing everything we can to support the artists in our midst. They're doing a really beautiful job of looking out for each other. They're forcing us to think really deeply and with a lot of specificity about what it means to be an organization in this particular moment, and how, as we imagine coming back, we want to be a more just and more equitable company. But I would say more than anything, we're really, really feeling the loss of being in a space with you and with our artists and in the presence of these stories. So we're counting the days, uncertain though they may be, until we can all be together again. We're planning for every eventuality that we can. And we're making a promise to you and to the artists who rely on and believe in Berkeley Rep to be there on the other side of this.
I'd like to expand on that just a little bit because Joanna's right that we are people who make theater, just like people who attend theater. We do it with a passion, and it's a calling. And so for people not to be able to be making theater has been it's such a source of pain for a lot of us, and that's been tough. A lot of you, maybe some of you know that I love to sneak in all the time, particularly in the Rhoda Theater. I love to come in door one and just stand against the concrete wall during shows, and that column right as you come in and look at the audience. I come in over and over again, day after day, for certain shows, and just love the pleasure of watching an audience watching a play, and not being able to do that just kills me. That said, we are trying to make really good use of this time. And in addition to just trying to figure out how are we going to get through to the end, there's three big things that we've been working on. And any one of them could have taken up all of our time at another point. One of them is that we are actually trying to look at how do we not just get through this in terms of thinking about survival, but how do we think about what are we learning during this period of time, and how do we turn this into what we're going to become, and what do we want to look like 5 years from now? So we're engaged in a pretty serious conversation that is about a strategic plan that takes us from here to where we want to be in 5 years. And that's been a great exercise because it's really helping us think about what we're learning this time, and we are learning a lot. So that's one thing. The strategic planning process has been important. A second thing that we're working on is a very, very deep dive into what it means for us to become an anti-racist organization. We are so aware that there is work that we as a country have to do, that there is work that we all as individuals have to do, and there's work that we as organizations have to do to minimize, to erase the effects of what has been systemic racism in this country. And so this is something we need to do. It's something we want to do, and it's something that we are actually doing. This is work that's not going to stop in 2 or 3 months. This is an ongoing investigation that we as a country will be engaged in. But I want you to know that over the next few months, Joanna and I are going to be coming back to you and sharing with you some of the work that we are doing, partially because we know that this is not something we can do, frankly, without our audience. And we want our audience to be there with us as we're engaging in this. Recognizing that each of us comes to these levels of learning and understanding about what this moment means to this country and what it means to us individually in our own way. We absorb this information in our own time, and yet we want the theater to be able to be a helpmate to our audience, to our artists, to our staff, our board, in growing together. And so that's something we do want to share with you. So we're working on long-range planning. We're working on our anti-racism work, and in addition to that, we're working on, as I say, a plan to reopen, and that's a plan to reopen that has to be movable and changing at all times. So there is nothing that has tested our nimbleness, our flexibility more than that. But all of those are activities that we know that we're going to keep you informed about over the next year. And we may very well be calling upon you to help us in some ways with all of this. And we look forward to bringing you on board with us.